ref. That she got the ball. Good afternoon, Spurs fans around the world. Welcome back to the Irish Hotspur with your boys Dave, Jack, Soren, Big Mike, and Dermotron. Here bringing you your pre-match build-up for Tottenham's big quarter-final Europa League clash tonight as we welcome Frankfurt to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. It is the first time we've been in a European quarter-final since 2019 with that run under Pochettino. It's been a while since we've been here, and despite what's gone on this season, I'm absolutely pumped for tonight's game because the reality is, it's football, and absolutely anything can happen. And I still always hold out that little bit of hope. So hopefully the players can match my energy today. That'll be absolutely brilliant. We're just going to give everybody everything they need to know quickly, and then we will crack on. Of course, tonight we are playing at the greatest man-made stadium in world football. It is the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Kickoff is at 8 p.m. Referee is Simon Marciniak from Poland. VAR, it's Alejandro Hernandez. If you want to watch the game in the UK and Ireland, it is on TNT Sports. In the USA, Paramount Plus, and in Australia on Stan Sport. Now, injury news. We'll start with the ineligible players for today. That's Forrester, Kinski, Reguilon, and Werner not registering in the squad. Dragusin still out with his knee. He'll be out for the rest of the season. Danzo still out with his hamstring, and Kulusevski out with his foot. We don't expect him to return tonight. I expect him to be ready for the second leg next week. And we can now officially add Wilson Odobert to that. It's come out in lead up today's game that he does have a hamstring injury. We've sent him for scans to find out the full extent of it. So, guys, in the comments, let me know your feelings on that. We're going to go around the panel quickly and get theirs on that. And then for Frankfurt, they are missing their number one choice goalkeeper, Kevin Trapp. Knauf, the winger, is out. El Wahi is out as well. Chandler, and then Hoyland and Mbimbe ineligible as well. So that is the team news heading into today's game. We'll go around the panel, get quick thoughts on Wilson Odebert's injury. Jack, we'll start with you. How much of a big blow is that, considering he's already had an injury earlier on in the season? He come back, he scored 2 goals against AZ Alkmaar, AZ Alkmaar to send us through to the quarterfinals. How big of a blow is Wilson Odebert?
I mean, he was the hero. He was part of the reason why we were able to make that comeback against AZ. You know, we were lucky to have not a huge deficit, but, you know, I think he carried us in every factor in that last game. You know, he was just active. He was live. He was taking players on. He was creating things. There were times when he took on 4 or 5 players, no problem. And then he was sort of doing Brennan Johnson things where he was at the right place at the right time for a couple of those finishes as well. So the guy was, in a way, a Europa League hero in the last round. It's devastating news. And the other thing I would add to it, Dave, is it's been nice. Maybe it's not happened too often this season, but Ange Postecoglou, you know, for a little bit there was having some difficult decisions when it came to the lineup because he actually had options. He had players to decide between, players that he could pick over others. And now it's kind of back to the status quo from earlier on in the season where there's really only one person available that you can pick, you know, for that position. And it's just maybe a sign of the times this year that it just hasn't been easy. It's been nice, you know, for a period there where we did have someone like Wilson to pick from that, as we said before, is kind of the opposite of Brennan Johnson, someone who offers something very, very different to Brennan. And, you know, at the end of the day, a lot of people do want to see Brennan play tonight. So it's not maybe the worst of news in that regard because he's off the back of a brace. But yeah, Dave, it is devastating just because I enjoyed when, you know, it was difficult decisions for us, you know, to, you know, pick between right wing and left wing and that sort of thing.
No, I agree with you. Look, for me, I just like when Wilson Odobert came back from his injury, provided maybe a little bit of freshness, something different that we haven't seen. Someone that can pick up that ball, run at players, take them on, and just cause a bit of havoc. Something a bit different to what maybe Son and Johnson have been providing us, which I think is a huge blow. But Soren, how much of a big opportunity is this then for someone like Mikey Moore, who seemed the last while maybe outcasted because some of these returns from injury? All of a sudden now, it looks like he'll be back getting opportunities again.
I suppose the thing is, I mean, reading that it's complained of tightness rather than it's actually gone. So maybe it's just tonight that he might not play. But look, Mikey Moore, we've seen what he can do. We've also seen that he's been a little bit overwhelmed in some games. But look, now's the time for these players to step up. Maybe it's the time, you know, Tell is going to get on the left instead of down the middle, see what he can do. But it's a shame because he's started to play a couple of games since coming back, and he's looked all right as Wilson. So I think it's a bit of a miss tonight. I mean, I would have liked to have seen him starting instead of Son, and put him on the left and Johnson on the right, but it's obviously not going to be. But it's sad times. We just don't seem to be able to get a break. But I'm sure, there'll be plenty of speculation as to why it's gone.
It's almost water off a duck's back, though. At this point, with how many injuries we had this year, it's devastating and it is deflating. But it's almost like we've had so many punches in the stomach at this point that we have 6-pack abs when it comes to these injuries. Really, it's just another blow that I guess we're going to have to deal with. It's been the status quo all season long. To be fair,
Asen, you can't. You get news like this. This is not the news we needed tonight.
True.
You kind of. It's hard enough, that there's plenty of pulling the team down all week, leading into again another game, which is the biggest game of the season. This is when we just want some good news, some getting behind the team, and it just seems to be that it's Tottenham. Let's throw another punch onto them. So, look, the only thing that I can say that I'd hope is the team go out there tonight. We smash Frankfurt, and Wilson, it's not as bad as it seems, and he comes back for the semi-final or the next leg. Full stop, not a problem.
Look, with our injury record this season, I think many people just automatically fear the worst, that potentially he could be out for the season, especially given, our medical department and what's gone on this season. But look, hopefully he can come back because, I think he's a great option off the bench, even if he's not starting games, just to bring that something different. But Mike, Terry Wright says here, Udabur is a huge loss, looking like he might be out be our next Cessi Young. Look, I hope not. But look, Big Mike, what's your feelings on it? Do you think it is a massive blow? Because some would argue, look, we've spent most of the season without him.
It's a blow. It's definitely a blow. I don't know how integral a blow it is, but we need options right now. I can't really add anything to what anyone's already said, but what I will say is it's an opportunity for maybe one of the other players to step up, show them what it's worth. So, yeah, it's a big loss for us. He's done well on his return. Be nice to see him stay fit, but why am I not surprised? He's complaining about the hamstring. That's Andrew's motto, isn't it? Hamstrings into cheese strings, man. It's terrible.
Yeah, we've suffered quite a lot of hamstring injuries this year. We've had Van de Ven. Udabur's had a couple. Danzo's been out. We've had quite a few this year in terms of hamstring injuries. But Big Mike, let me maybe transition then. That's enough on Udabur. I don't think anyone really has too much more to say on that. So I'm just going to, kick it off, Big Mike. Let's get on to you about tonight's atmosphere. I mean, Spurs fans need to generate a raucous atmosphere tonight to give the players the motivation to get over the line. Do you think the fans will do their end of the bargain tonight?
I'm hoping that they will. I heard there's going to be flags or something like that, right? At least in the South Stand or something like this. So the club's trying to do its part. So the fans have to turn up. It's important that, we're positive in today's game in the home leg, to try and get behind the team. But it works both ways. The team's got to give something to the fans. Yeah. They have to make sure that they do their part as well. Fight for every ball. Try and win the 50-50s. Beat a man, get a good ball in the box, good shot on target. Start strong, come out the block sort of flying. Maybe we can capitalize off that. I think if we take the lead early or take the lead at any point, then yeah, we'll be quite big. But sorry, I'm getting a phone call.
No, you're all right. No, look, you're absolutely spot on.
Yeah,
we need an absolute massive atmosphere tonight, and look, where I sort of get a bit annoyed is, we're constantly being asked from, look, it's not even on Postecoglou, he's just coming out and stating the obvious at the end of the day, but even players and that, we're constantly being told, get behind the team, get behind the team. But my argument is that stadium's always sold out. Fans are always here every single game. No matter what's gone on, we've had 20 losses. We're still here. We are still behind this team. And I sort of agree with you. When does the onus become on them to give us something to get behind? And I think we are. Bar if it wasn't a quarterfinal tonight, I think we would be approaching that point very, very quickly. I mean, Dermot, there seems to be a massive disconnect this season between the fans, the players, the managers, and that. Whose fault is that, in your opinion? Where does the disconnect come between the team, the manager, and the players?
It's hard to blame one person. I think it's just the way the season's gone. I think if the fans are seeing the way we're playing, that they're going to lose interest. I think they feed off the players. I think also the feed off the manager. I've never seen it this bad in 40 odd years supporting Tottenham Hotspur. I've never seen it this disconnected. Even in the bad times of the 90s, we were always connected in some way, shape, or form. But I think the fans have a right to be angry because we've lost so many games this season. And I think it's come across. I think we've all had enough. And I think it comes across with Levy, with Enoch, with Ange, with the players. I think everything's just come into one melting pot. And we as a fan base have just had enough. We cannot take any more of this. And I think it's come across that way. I think we just come to our end of our tether. And that's why it's coming across that way. I don't think it's one person. I think it's a combination of everything. So I think we can all sit here and complain and moan. But tonight, we have to get behind that team. We have to make that stadium an absolute hell, like going into hell. We have to make it like Galatasaray or somewhere like that.
Welcome
we have to make it so hostile.
Yeah.
But do you know what I mean? We have to make it so hostile that Frankfurt don't even want to come out of the dressing room.
I think we will.
And we do. And if we do that, the players then feed off that. Ange feeds off that. So if we can give the players something, then they give it back. It's a two-way thing. It's like being in a relationship. You've got to be 50-50. So we got to get something off the players, and the players expect something else. We've all got to play our part.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen it this bad, Dave, in over 40 years. Sorry for the long-winded answer, but that's sort of how I see it.
No, look, you're absolutely spot on. And I think, for the first 10, 15 minutes, that place will be rockers. I think where the question comes in for me is if things don't go well, can fans still put away their frustrations and still back the team 15, 20, 25 minutes, even 60, 65 minutes into the game, even if things aren't going well? Are we still going to, create a massive atmosphere? Because look, they put acoustics at the top of that stadium, so when you do sing, it reverberates back in and stuff like that. And I hope tonight is the night where it's like you said, Dermo, we absolutely rattle them, because you best believe when we go out there, their fans are going to make that an absolute hostile place to go. Their fan base actually doesn't get enough credit for how fanatical they are. Across Europe, they've earned a lot of respect in their years across Europe for their fan base, especially their home stadium atmosphere and stuff like that. So we need to return the favor tonight. But Drew, on to you, my man. I mean, how important is it that fans put aside their frustrations and deliver that raucous atmosphere for the players? And do you think it can be done for the whole game? Because a bit like what Phil Coy says here, fans, players, and manager need to turn up tonight. No excuses. Sorry.
Right, I'm going to say you said Drew. I was like, where's Drew?
I always get you two mixed up. I swear you're brothers from another mother.
Look, I think it's a catch-22 situation with the fans and the club. We sit here and say that we need to get the fans need to back the team, and then we say the team needs to play for the fans to back the team, which comes first type thing. I can only go back to the best atmosphere that I've seen for a long, long time was that game when we played Arsenal, and it was absolutely hostile at the ground. The fans were on fire that night, and you've seen glimpses of it. And I don't know. I get the feeling we're at that stage now where the players aren't playing because they're fed up of the fans, and the fans aren't singing because they're fed up of the team. So it's kind of an awkward situation. You just hope that for once, both the fans and the team come out tonight and think, do you know what? We're going to put on a performance. The team actually comes out and plays. The fans can see it. They get behind the team. That lifts the team even more. The team starts to play even better, and all of a sudden it just all clicks again. We know it can. The problem is, if we go 1-0 down, you just see the fans will turn on the team. And I'm not calling the fans before anybody says anything. I think we've got some of the best fans around. But look, you mentioned going to their ground. It's, you know, you go to a lot of grounds in Europe, Germany, Holland, and the fans are absolutely amazing. It doesn't matter whether they're winning or losing, they're bouncing, they're jumping, they're singing. And you just, I don't know, it just seems to be a thing in England that we just don't have that same sort of atmosphere. I don't know why. I mean, there's been a lot of call on social media recently saying, you know, the club should tell the fans to bring the scarves and the flags and wave them. Well, yeah, they should, but it's also not the club's place to, you know, why don't the fans just do that automatically? You know, I mean, that South Stand, can you imagine that if it was a German club? That would be absolutely bouncing up and down, you know, doing is it the Posman or the Bon, whatever they call it?
Posman, the Posman.
Yeah, you know, can you imagine that in the lily white shirts jumping up and down on that stand? That would be absolutely awesome. But as Brits, we don't seem to do it, do we? We're almost afraid to get excited about our team. And I know the team isn't giving us anything to be excited about. I get that, but
it is
the
a bit
fans are
different.
definitely important.
I do think, you know, when you look at maybe, you know, and this is up and down the UK, even the same with Ireland to a large degree, you know, they sort of do feed off how the team are doing, you know, whereas across Europe, you always see some crazy guy with his back to the game, doesn't watch the game, you know, he's just swinging a scarf around or usually has his top off and stuff like that. We, you know, that you don't really see that up and down the UK. That is more of a European thing. I'm not sure you're ever going to get it in the UK. At the end of the day, you know, it's always been in my whole lifetime that they've sort of fed off how well the team are doing in general. And I don't think that's a bad thing at the end of the day. But look, I do think that we are going to turn up tonight. I do think the atmosphere is going to be absolutely rocking. I just hope if things do maybe turn a little bit, that the fans can still generate that noise and get behind that team, because there has to be an understanding of the importance of the home leg today and us really needing to take something from this if we want to make it into a European semi-final. So we really need to do our part tonight. Once we do our part, then it's over to the people that are asking us to do our part. Then it's on. Then it's up. You know, it's up to them. Then the players, the manager, you do your part. If we've done ours and we've created that atmosphere, you better back it up tonight. But look, let's keep it moving. I mean, on to you, Jack. I want to just ask you a little bit about Frankfurt. You know, Eintracht Frankfurt have been in fantastic form in the Europa League. They have lost just 2 of their last 23 matches in the Europa League. They've also won 7 of their games this season, and they also lifted the trophy back in 2022. So they've got a lot of European pedigree. How big of a challenge will Spurs face in this quarterfinal tonight? And can they overcome Frankfurt's impressive European pedigree?
You really hope that they can. I made the claim on the members preview. I think Frankfurt are going to be the tougher opponent before the final. I think if we play Lazio or Bodo Glimt, I understand that Bodo Glimt are kind of a spicy team because, you know, they're up in Norway, you know, in the Arctic Circle and whatnot. But if you actually look at the team on paper with Frankfurt, as well as even just their fan atmosphere that they generate, I think they're regarded, at least in my opinion, regarded as one of the more loyal fan bases of the Bundesliga teams, especially for a team and a club that hasn't had nearly as much success as like the Dortmunds or the Bayerns really of the world in that league. They have a very, very strong fan base, very, very strong ultra group, and they will generate a tough atmosphere for when we go away from home. And their team this season is in fine form. They've done well domestically. You know, they've done well in European games. I think partially that has to do with just their fan atmosphere and the fact that they are a club that probably can kind of prioritize one competition over another. And just sort of the team in general, Dave, when I look at it, I think they are better coached and have better players than the likes of Lazio or Bodo Glimt. So you could see this as the tougher game before even the semifinal. So in a sense, this is the final for us before we reach the final. I know that sounded pretty stupid out loud, but it is going to be the tougher round than I think the semis would be. That's just my opinion, though. You know, at the end of the day, when you get to a semifinal, that also will be very difficult. But I think Frankfurt, outside of ourselves, are the other favorite to make it to this final on this end of the bracket, because we know that we're going to be playing either Lazio or Bodo Glimt in the next round. But I think Frankfurt are the other favorites beside ourselves, really. So, Dave, that's the way I see it. This game is absolutely massive for that reason, because if we do get past them, I'd argue it actually would be easier after that.
No,
Yeah.
look, they're a really strong side in Europe. You know, you look at a lot of their players, they've got a very young squad, by the way, you know, almost younger than ours as well, to a large degree. And they're actually becoming a little bit of an envy of some clubs around Europe, because they've got a lot of young talent that they've brought all together at once. But Jack, one of them talents is their top scorer, Hugo Ekitike. He's got 19 goals this season. I think he's already got 6 goal contributions in 10 games in the Europa League. He's been in sensational form this season. You know, how can we look to contain him tonight, Jack? Because he is their main source, their main outlet.
He's a tricky player. He's one of those classic, you know, very big, very tall, but kind of good touch for a big man type of guy. You know, he's lanky. He has a bit of the sort of techiness, kind of like a Berbatov to an extent, where, you know, like I said, big guy, but actually, you know, really knows how to sort of perform technical things, you know, despite being, you know, much bigger. He has a bit of pace about him as well. You know, he can get in behind if need be. I think he's a very, very good striker. He's someone we were linked with, I believe, a while ago, you know, when he was actually still in Liga, just for various reasons. We didn't pursue that. So Ekitike will cause us problems. I think, you know, the combination of Van de Ven and Romero, though, hopefully is our saving grace. Van de Ven can match anybody in the world, really, pace for pace. He's probably even faster than Mbappe when you think about it. You know, Van de Ven, his hamstrings are worth 40 million alone. And then with Romero, like, I think he's a guy that could probably lay a challenge into Ekitike that would make him, you know, look back, you know, a few times before he receives it, make him be a bit nervous, you know, when he is trying to get turned, when he is trying to get onto the ball. And just to add to it, you know, I think he's someone that is just in good form for them, both domestically and in European football, which gives me a bit of a worry, right? He's not playing well in one competition or the other. He's playing well in both right now. Just one more thing to add, you know, the guy that I didn't even know this day, but the guy that, you know, you had on the injury list for them there, El Yewahi, he's someone who is also very, very talented from I think RC Lons last season. And actually the fact that he's missing is a saving grace for us, because I think those two together are actually a very, very dangerous forward line, very techy players, very skillful talents from Liga. So I think it's a saving grace actually that he's out for this one. We're going to be missing Odebear, of course, but Wahi is also, you know, a big loss, you know, for them as well. And Ekitike, hopefully the combination of Romero and Van de Ven is going to be the way we take him out of the game. That's what I'd say.
And
Canal together, yin and yang.
And Canal being out injured, we've been linked with him in seasons gone by. Yep. And this guy Larson as well, he's very good in midfield. He's got a good passing range. I do expect them, and this is just my feeling, to look to release Ekitike in behind, you know, a bit like what Chelsea done to us a couple of weeks ago, constantly put that in behind our high line. So it'll be interesting to see how we deal with that. I do think Vicario needs to be aware of that. And then, look, you're just asking for Van de Ven to be quicker. But, Jack, am I right in my analysis? I mean, just last question on Frankfurt, and we'll get some comments from the chat and we'll crack on with the rest of the guys on the panel as well. But how do we expect them to approach tonight's game? What are we looking for? Because from my understanding is they are going to look to block up the middle defensively. They're going to ask a lot of us out wide, and they also sort of rely on their wide men to try and get back and snuff out that danger. But they are very comfortable allowing us the ball out wide, and that's where we really need to show that sort of clinical nature and that creative edge out there tonight. That's just from my understanding, but you have a lot more knowledge on the Bundesliga than I do.
I mean, when I saw them earlier on in the season, they had a pretty fun game against Bayern Munich, and they put every single man behind the ball, and then they just use Ekitike and Omar Marmoush to sort of hit the team on the counter. They have good forwards. You know, they lost Marmoush. They replaced him with El Yewahi, but, you know, I think that's what they're going to do probably in this game as well. They're just going to look to try to really block up the sort of passing lanes for us in the central areas, and then they'll look to try to hit us on the counter with good forwards. And Dave, you know, I sort of lean that way sometimes stylistically and tactically myself. You know, I think there is a big advantage is that if you have good forwards and you have a decent enough midfield and defense, you know, you can just look to allow, you know, the opposition team to go deep into your half, sort of expose themselves a bit, you know, leave space in behind. And I think that's what they're going to try to do. I wouldn't put it past them though, as well, though, to maybe take a page out of Chelsea's book, where Chelsea, you know, in the beginning, you know, of the last game that we saw, you know, they pressed us really, really, really high and, you know, tries to cause us problems there. So I wouldn't put it past Dino Topmuller to sort of mix it up a bit, but I think there will be periods where they will try to, you know, lock up shop, make it really difficult for us. Cause I think that is more Spurs' kryptonite, you know, than, you know, trying to sort of press us all the way through 90 minutes. You know, we struggle to break down teams, and this Frankfurt team are one of the better defenses in the Bundesliga in general. So that's my worry, is that they'll just block up shop and look to hit it, long and, over the top and in behind for very good forwards that they have in Ekitike.
No, 100%. And I think that's where, Van de Ven comes in, and hopefully
Right.
he can, snuff out that. He's the only one that really has that pace in behind. But, in terms of going forward, we need Jed Spence to come to the fore tonight. He's been brilliant up and down, that side. Pedro Porro, I'd argue, we'll get on to that. Maybe, a lot of people would argue defensively he's not great, but I think with them forcing us a lot out wide and giving us space out wide tonight, I think he's definitely an answer to help break them down. And then it's just a matter of whether Brennan Johnson and Son can also find the pace. But I'd argue, it's a game where you should be getting plenty of balls in the box and go and look to get more out of Dom Solanke. He did score a lot of headed goals before we signed him. Not something that we've seen repeated at Tottenham Hotspur. And I think it's definitely an avenue for us to try and get a bit of joy tonight. Let's take a couple of comments from the chat and then we'll crack on and get the rest of the boys involved. We've got Artist team member for 6 months. Let's hope this milestone isn't a bad omen. Look, I hope not. Hopefully, it's a good omen. Soren and Jack were speaking beforehand about, superstitions, what we've tried this season, to try and get wins and change our luck and stuff like that. It's just dead, being a Spurs supporter. But if we do win tonight, I'd argue it's been a good omen, Artist. Big up, my man. We've also got Stateside Foot. He says, I realize Ange and Levy are polarizing figures. People everyone loves to hate, but this team needs you tonight, period. We have to show out proper on European nights. Leave the bullshit at the door. Phil Coyce also says, whatever difference you have with the chairman, manager, and certain players, park all that aside and get behind the team tonight. We have a 100%. Chance of doing something special. Come on, you Spurs. Darv Hotspur, good to see you, my man. We've got We Are Spurs TV. I've been watching the Prem since the mid-90s, and Tottenham have had some of the loudest fans in the sport. At times, I do agree. We can sometimes be louder for longer periods of the game. Super Spurs TV, big up, Blaine. Good to see you. Big up, everyone. I'm putting all my thoughts on Ange and the wider issues to the side. This is about winning tonight. I'm going to dare to dream. Please, please, lads, smash the Krauts tonight. Come on, you Spurs. Big up, Blaine Devlin. Do you know what? I'm very hesitant of making fun of their name just in case we get turned over. But if we get by, I'll be all over it. Blaine, big up, my man. DB, great to see you in the house. Hopefully you're keeping well and up for tonight, my man. We've got K32. This game's the game tonight comes down to one thing for Spurs. The will to win. We have to want this. Absolutely spot on. And look, from what I'm seeing around today and in general in the build up to this game, Spurs fans want it. We're up for it. But it does also come down to how hungry the players are and, how built they are for these sort of occasions. So let's wait and see. We've got the Big D in the house. Big up, Big D. Good to see you. The Big Schlong says, if the players and manager gives us something to cheer for, the fans can be electric. Spurs versus Arsenal under Conte to get top 4 comes to mind. Come on, you Spurs. Let me maybe, I know, Jack, you sort of maybe on that one. Maybe you want to come in, but could we do more on these European nights by, greeting the team bus with flares and all that sort of stuff, as they come in, and then also, try and intimidate the opposition, not obviously throw stuff at the bus and all, but, create that sort of environment that it's like, Galatasaray is well known for it. Welcome to hell. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. Could we do a lot more around that? Because that Arsenal one, I don't care what anyone tells me. You go back and watch that documentary, the last episode, you look at their players' legs in the change room. It's shaking. You can hear the noise from outside. Arteta's rattled. And we almost bet them before they even took the football pitch that night. Jack, do you think, and sorry, now you're also nodding your head as well, you guys think we could do more around that in creating them sort of atmospheres?
I'd encourage fans. The only thing I'll say, and I think Soren, should come in and others should come in, but I feel like Spurs fans would do well by getting into the stadium early. I understand people want to be at the pub, they want to be hanging out with each other. Maybe get into that stadium earlier than usual, start to sing, start to generate an atmosphere beforehand, while you're in sort of the tunnels, or you're in sort of, the common areas and things like that, try to make it, just already an electric atmosphere, well before kickoff, even before Levy starts turning on the Star Wars music and, things like that, right? Try to generate a real atmosphere of some kind before this game, even gets kicked off. Because the players, the Eintracht players, they'll either be warming up and they'll start to hear that, or they'll hear it, when they're in the dressing room, in the tunnel. You'd imagine that the acoustics aren't good enough that they'll be able to travel all the way down to the dressing room for them to hear it. And like you mentioned before, plenty of times, Dave, Gary Neville did say that, right? That Spurs, fans and sort of the atmosphere almost beat that Arsenal team before even a ball was kicked.
I believe was his words.
Right, exactly. Let's brutalize this. Let's brutalize this Frankfurt team with, the best atmosphere that we can generate. And I'd say maybe, I'm I'm not going to tell anybody what to do, but maybe a good way to do it would just sort of get into the stadium a little bit earlier. Encourage your friends, encourage your people with you. Let's just get into the stadium nice and early, start to sing, start to generate that atmosphere, from the kickoff. Because if there are already a ton of people in seats doing that, you might encourage others, to follow suit.
I mean, Soren, it's something you see Liverpool fans do on European nights where they greet their own team bus with the flares, line the streets for it and stuff like that. But also they look to intimidate the opposition's team bus coming in. Could we do more around the stadium? I know Jack's talking about getting in the stadium and early and stuff, and he's absolutely spot on. But them buses come in a long time before that. Could we do more around the outside of the stadium to, generate the atmosphere around the place as well?
How many times have we heard, when we've played away, or even England or whatever, that the opposition fans have been letting fireworks off outside the hotels and knocking on doors and all this sort of thing. But I agree with Jack that it maybe doesn't need to happen with the bus coming in. I mean, line the streets, make some noise, stop that bus coming, whatever. But to me, it's when those players come out just before the kickoff and they're having a quick warm up. That's when it needs to start. And then when they walk out of that tunnel for the match, if that crowd is electric, I mean, there's the comment there saying for the team and the manager to give them something to cheer about. But you kind of also think, well, if our players come out and it's absolutely electric at that point, maybe that lifts the players to give the fans something back as well. If our players come out and it's quiet or there's not a lot of noise, they're already down because it's in their mind, well, if we lose tonight, we're going to be even more stick. If we lose tonight, we're going to get slaughtered on social media, whatever. It's a vicious circle where who's right, who's wrong, which comes first, the chicken or the egg? Who inspires who, the team or the fans? It's an impossibility, but tonight is a European Cup. It's on the line. We're in touching distance. If you're a fan in that stadium, you should not be able to stand there without the hairs on the back of your neck standing up, because it should be you're there for a reason. You're there to see the team hopefully win and progress to the semi-finals. I mean, bloody hell, look at us on the panel, the people in the chat, we're getting excited already. It's a quarter final. We want the semi. We don't want, we want the final. Go back to Ajax. How amazing was that night? That's the feelings that we want. Europe. There is nothing better than European nights. Nothing better. And
absolutely,
if we can't get up tonight for the team, we all sit here and the criticism of the team for the last year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years even has been absolutely spot on. There's no reason we shouldn't be criticizing the team. But on nights like this, that should all go out the window. And all we should be thinking tonight is the mighty Tottenham are going to come out and we're going to blast the team. And we should be absolutely buzzing by now. And we shouldn't be sat here saying the fans need to up for tonight because they should already be up. There should already be, it's mind blowing how crap the atmospheres have been recently, and tonight should just be a totally different thing. We should be buzzing. We should not be able to wait to get on that pitch. And our team, never mind the opposition team, when our team walk out, their hairs on the back of the neck should be standing up thinking, we're in the best stadium in the world. We've got the best fans behind us tonight. Let's go and do it.
100%.
Absolutely spot on. And at the end of the day, look, no matter how tough this season has been, miraculously, we are still in a European Cup quarterfinal. We've still got something to try and salvage this season. And look, I can understand maybe some of the atmosphere around the Premier League. Look, that's sort of done and dusted to a large degree, you know what I mean? But I do think cup games, I think we're going to turn up tonight. I really do. I really believe it. Big up the Big D. Really appreciate support. K32 says, come on, you Spurs. I love this channel. Thanks for all the hard work, Dave and Jack. Big up, K32. Very, very kind of you, my man. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much, my man. Very, very kind of you. Look, games and all, it's not hard work. I enjoy it. I'll be doing this anyway. If I wasn't doing this, I'll be on the phone to my dad waffling the ears off him and winding him up, so he's probably thankful for this. So big up K32, my man. Really appreciate the support, brother.
And I did like his comment saying the game tonight just comes down to
Yeah.
one thing, the will to win, and just wanting it more than the other team. And that comes from the fans, it comes from the players, it just comes from everybody. Just have to show that desire tonight. And he's 100% right. We're playing under the lights in a European quarterfinal. He's absolutely spot on.
Look at the weather. It's a fantastic day for football, It's a European, quarterfinal. I mean, this is what life is about. This is what we struggle for, Let's try and enjoy tonight. I get what's going on, but let's just try and enjoy tonight. Big up Noel O'Sullivan, just arrived at the stadium. Hopefully you have a great fucking night, buddy. Come on. Big up Dermotron as well, gifting out 1 Irish Hotspur membership. Jack will go and check who the lucky recipient is.
Let me check
and
in
Woodsy
on that.
Hotspur member for 5 months says, big up, gents. First quarterfinal since 2019. Hit their likes. Look, we're here. Let's try and make the most of this and kick on now, Woodsy. Imagine if we got into a semi-final. The buzz around the place would be absolutely unbelievable. And, it's one that I just think we need coming out the back end of this season. Like I keep saying, there's still an opportunity to salvage this season. And maybe some people say, Dave, that's deluded of you and stuff like that. But I always do try to be the eternal optimist. You give me a little bit of hope, I'll try and make that hope bigger and bigger, that hole bigger and bigger. That's just the way I am. I'm not giving up yet until we're out of this competition. Big up, Woodsy. Good to see you. Jack, who's the...
Thank you very much.
By the way, Woodsy, what's the weather like up north? Let me know.
Thank you very much, Tron. It's been gifted out to Phil Coys here. Phil Coys would love to be able to meet up with you. Dave and I will be going to that Crystal Palace game in May. It's been a while since we've seen you in person, on camera or just in general, man. So it would be nice to be able to meet up with you once again. Big up to Phil Coys. Been very kind to us for a long time. And hop on a fan show, man. It's been a while.
Big up Phil Coys, absolute legend. Guys, I was listening to a 10-15 minute segment from TNT Sports yesterday where they had like Joe Hargreaves, Lescott, and Rio Ferdinand. And there was a good question put out there, but I feel like to the wrong people. I want to put it to the Spurs fan base and genuinely gauge where people are at, coming up with these last couple of games. Well, what we hope is more games in Europe. But can Tottenham Hotspur win the Europa League the current way we are playing, or do we need to change something up a little bit for the quarter, semis, and finals? No, we are coming up against better teams in order to win this competition. I want you guys at home to get your answers in the chat. I'll bring them up as we go along. I'm going to start with Big Mike and Dermot, and we'll work our way backwards. Big Mike, how do you feel about it? Because I find it a very interesting question, actually. I don't know whether other people do, but I did.
It's interesting because I don't even know what we're doing anymore. Do you know what I mean? I don't even know how we're trying to play anymore. So if you'd asked me this maybe the first 10 games into Andrew's career, maybe that'd be a different answer than I have now. It's we have to believe. Like, we just have to go out there. Honestly, just the players have to just, I don't know, by hook or by crook, they got to carry us through this tie, through the semi. If we get to the final in a one-off game, anything can happen in football. So that's kind of where I'm at with it in terms of trying to have some genuine hope and belief that we can win. But we have to just start. We have to somehow get back to the start of when it was that first 10 games when there was a little something there. But without that, what do we do?
Do you know what it was, Big Mike? Some of the panel was a little bit split. The ones that hadn't, because Joe Hart was there and he's played under Ange, but the ones that hadn't played under Ange straight away went to Spurs need to tighten up defensively. If we want to win the competition, if we, maybe played a bit more pragmatic, a bit more defensively, that we actually have, the team to be able to get over the line. But then Joe Hart said, look, guys, I think you're looking at it wrong. I've played under Ange. The way Ange wants is if we, control possession the way we're supposed to. The front line was a lot better, maintain possession, a lot more and stuff like that. We sustained it in that half. All of a sudden, you're not relying on your defense or your back line as much. So they were split. I mean, what do you make on it? Do you think we need to go a bit more pragmatic to win this? Do you think, we're just waiting on the 4 players to come alive and that they can help us win it?
I wouldn't say go pragmatic. No, definitely not today's game. You have to come out sort of what I thought was Ange ball, like you said, aggressive, foot on the ball, foot at the neck football, attacking, high pressing, winning the ball high up the pitch, and really suffocating the opposition into making mistakes and obviously capitalize on that. That's how I think we're going to at least approach the home tie. Look, it's a difficult one. Like, our top managers will mix it up, and I think it's showing that we do miss that, you know, in our football, the ability to kind of mix it up, or, you know, just conceding the same goal week in, week out. I know I say this like a broken record, but we just see it all the time. You know, just a ball into the back, just float into the back post. Something's going to happen probably. And we're never covering that danger area. And I don't know, but we've seen Ange kind of tinker it a little bit, right? Do something to kind of mix it up every now and again. So hopefully he's got a game plan tonight that's effective against Frankfurt. I generally believe if the players turn up, if they give everything they've got, we can really take the game to them and you know, get a genuinely good result. But yeah, the fans have got to be on it. Everyone's got to turn up, and we've got to believe in Ange. So that's where it's at with it.
Absolutely. And you know what? You know the way you're speaking about maybe mixing up, you know, play, the way we try and play. I do think having Romero back actually gives us that point of difference. And it's something that I've tried to highlight that we have missed. Like, you even go back and look at our first goal against Southampton. They're expecting us to play it through into the midfield. Romero went long over the midfield, straight into Maddison's feet. You know, against Ipswich, when we bet them back in February, our last 2 wins, we mixed it up. We went long in behind for Son, a bit more direct. You know, and I think having someone like Romero back tonight, I'm hoping you will see us mix it up a little bit more in terms of not always having to feed it straight into the midfield, because I do, to a degree, it does make it easy for the opposition to come and press us. But a bit like what Pochettino, like under Pochettino, we got pressed, but Toby Alderweireld could pick up that ball, could put it down into the channels for the winger, straight in, you know, to the striker, that passing range. And I think having Romero back will help us mix it up in terms of how we're trying to get out from the back. It gives us that ability to be able to go a little bit longer at times if we need. On to you, Darmo, again. Can we win the Europa League playing this way, my man?
Yeah. Yes, we can. And we will win it.
What gives you confidence?
Because we're Tottenham Hotspur. That's why.
No, I don't want to hear that. What gives you confidence with the way we're playing?
My confidence is we can win it. My inner belief knows we can win it. I have to believe as a fan we can win it because we're Tottenham Hotspur, because we deserve to be in this. We deserve to be in this position. We're a big enough club. We've won it twice before, 71, between 72 and 84. Back in 84, we beat a Dutch side and a German side on the way to winning that trophy. And I believe in omens. I do believe in omens. I believe the same. I felt 7-year-old me back then was confident Tottenham Hotspur were going to win that UEFA Cup. And we did, with a second-rate team, by the way. That team that won that final was ravaged with injuries and suspensions, and we won it. I still believe that. I'm 48 now, and I still have the same feeling in my belly as I did when I was 7 years old when we won it in 84, that we're going to go out and win this competition. I have that belief in myself we're going to win it. What's the point of supporting a team if you can't believe, or you can't have that belief that your team can go and win this competition? There's no point to supporting a football team if you're going to sit and think, we're not going to win because we've been playing shit. BS. We're going to win this competition because we're in it, we're going to win it, and we're going to win it well. And I believe we can.
Forget about that. I want a deeper answer off you here, Dermo. I'm going to press you on the tactical side of things here. You know, I don't want to hear about where Tottenham we can win it. You know, everyone believes at the end of the day. Everyone still has a little bit of hope. Do we need to change up anything tactically in our style of play or anything like that with how we play if we want to win this competition? Is there any area of weaknesses that you think we need to tidy that up if we're going on to win this?
No. Because the way we played on Sunday, as you rightly said, Romero mixed it up a bit. We've got Romero and Van der Ven back. So that mixed it up. We're not going through the middle. Romero kicked it long. You look at, as you said, against Southampton, Romero put it long to Maddison's feet. We can mix it up now. Tactically, we can mix it up because we've got the players that can mix it up. And why are we changing it now when it's worked so well to get us to this point in this competition? Yes, we've had bad games in it. I grant you. But I think Ange shouldn't tinker too much, because if you start tinkering too much, then you're going away from the philosophy he wants to play. And I think with Romero back, Van der Ven back, I think you will see players being lifted tonight, motivate themselves. They'll be motivating themselves to win this tonight and prove everyone wrong. So I don't think Ange needs to change too much. I just think he just needs to remind the players of their responsibilities, remind the defense to defenders, remind the wingers to come back and help the fullbacks, and just do their jobs. As long as we do our jobs, we'll be fine. But I don't think Ange should go out and make drastic changes, because I don't think so. I just think tactically, I think we're fine, and that's just my opinion. Sorry
Fair.
if it's not the answer you want, Dave. Sorry, but
Fair. No, look, I don't think Ange is going to change. I thought, when that was my initial. As soon as you want to ask that question, that was my initial thing. It's like he's not going to change anyway. But I did think it was an interesting discussion. If Spurs, if it was all about winning, is there something that maybe we could do a little bit differently to make sure that we get over the line rather than just persist to play the same way and sort of hope? I mean, Jack, do you want to come in on this?
I mean, on a tactical level, Ange isn't going to change a whole lot, but you could look at other teams that do play a similar, very high octane, very intense attacking style of play that are in the Champions League that we just watched the other evening. PSG were suffocating Aston Villa, right? Inside their own half, just wouldn't let them out. Every single time that the ball was lost by them, they were quickly pressing on to their center backs, quickly, trying to win the ball back in midfield. And they have world-class players, I think, PSG, right? And even also you'd look at Barcelona, like Hansi Flick. In my opinion, I think Hansi Flick is more Ange than even Ange Postecoglou. That dude plays the highest line, I think, in football in general, and plays, ridiculous tactics that defy the mind, really, for me. But again, what these guys maybe have that Spurs don't, they have world-class players in nearly every position, right? So they can sort of get away with playing that high-octane football maybe a bit better than we do. But what we could try to replicate and try to mimic to some extent, which doesn't require world-class players, is that desire and that belief in the system that, the moment we lose the ball, we need to have guys immediately putting pressure on these players. You need to have guys in midfield that are willing to win their battles every single time, put a foot in, drag a player down if need be, tactical fouling, look to try to win every single battle when it comes to a 50-50, that type of thing. And I saw PSG doing that. And again, I think they have world-class players, but they still were also winning, kind of the simple things, when it just came to desire, when it just came to getting stuck in, when it came to winning aerial duels, that type of thing. And that doesn't require being a world-class player. That really is just desire, belief, and the intensity that they brought, to the game. So I'd say you look at what PSG were doing last night, playing very attacking football while still also doing the other sides of the game very, very well, that I don't think needs to be a world-class player or technical type of thing. And the same thing could be said of Barcelona, who also play a ridiculously high line, ridiculous sort of type of tactics, but still do the other sides of the game very, very well. It's not like we need to play Simeone ball and Conte ball and put everybody behind, the ball, to win this game. We just need to do the best version of Ange ball possible. And that also comes with, I think, trying to have that belief in the players, in terms of pressing high. I mean, Sean, Dave, I'd agree with Sean in the chat. He's mentioned a few times, like, maybe in recent games, it feels like Spurs, they're pressing, they're trying to do what Ange wants of them, but are they really showing that belief and that commitment to it? Maybe not. We're not winning the ball high up the pitch as much, like Sean mentioned. We're not keeping teams, deep in their half, suffocating them in their own half nearly as much, in recent games. And if we can do that for this game, that is your way to still play Ange ball, but also win at the same time.
No, 100%. I'd argue, a lack of sacrifice to the cause has probably been a massive issue at this football club ever since Pochettino. There seems to be this notion that they don't need to work hard out of possession or really nail down the defensive side of things. We had Jose Conte that bitched and moaned about the training, everything else, Yeah, and I agree with Sean, when we are on the front foot and we are pressing, and the whole idea behind it, Joe Hart was basically broke down brilliantly, is that you force them, you sort of lock a player in and you force them into that mistake or just clearing that ball anywhere. And when it works, it's absolutely brilliant to watch. We just recycle that ball and we go again. But that's been too and far, in between this season. It looks like a lot of the players aren't committed to it. Dom Solanke seems to be the only one in the forward line actually really committed to it. Son doesn't seem as committed to it. Johnson doesn't seem as committed to it. I'd argue sometimes a lot of the midfielders late. I think at times I'm seeing Bentancur, our deepest midfielder, trying to get the press, or sometimes I'm looking at Bergvall and Madison and I argue, do they want to do that? And Jack's absolutely spot on. You look at PSG. Out possession, the players work like dogs. Barcelona under Guardiola, out possession, the players that work like dogs to get it back. That was the big thing with Guardiola. Try and retain that ball within the next 15, 20 seconds. Same with Liverpool under Klopp. Work like dogs out of possession to try and get that ball back. And the whole idea is realize when they're in possession, it's dangerous. So you got to try and get it back quickly. If we commit more to that, I do think
100%.
we'll see the formation be a bit more cohesive. And then it's just down to, again, when we do get that ball back, do we have the quality then to break them down and create chances? Because there is times where we have done it, but then the quality hasn't been there in terms of looking to break them down. I mean, Soren, you were nodding your head as soon as I brought this coming up. Do you want to have your say on it? And then we'll get into a bit about, Postecoglou and then the team.
Yeah, I mean, there's 2 points I want to bring up. One, fully was agreeing with Dermot until he said he was only 48. You've lost me now, mate. No way. But I think Mike actually hit it on the head. And it was a brilliant point because we've seen this season, especially the last probably 10, 12, 15 matches, we are not playing Ange ball anymore. The tactics have totally changed. Go back to them first 10 games of last season, and then sporadically through the season, a little bit at the beginning of this season, you could see what I think is supposed to be Ange ball, where the whole team are chasing and closing. We don't do that anymore. We've suddenly come back a little bit. We've suddenly gone more defensive. And this team, just to me, doesn't know what the hell it's doing anymore. Now, whether we want to blame Ange, whether it's the pressure that's being put on Ange because he supposedly only plays one-dimensional and he's only got one plan, which is plan A, which doesn't work. Well, to me, we're almost on plan J or K, because the whole matches over the last 2-3 months of every game we seem to be playing slightly different. And we it's almost as if now that nobody in the club knows what the hell they're doing anymore. Now, whether it's the pressure of losing, whether it's trying to change things to find that winning way, I don't know. But it just, whatever is happening within the club is not working. Whether we are now rolling down to the end of Ange, I don't know. A lot of people seem to think we are, but I just think tonight we've got to change. We've got to come out. We've got to almost go back to that style of football where it's just non-stop from the first minute. We're closing down, attacking, like you say, getting the ball back. And as soon as we lose the ball, get it back and start again. But the intensity has got to come up, because we've got to the point now where we get the ball and we slow it down. We pass it backwards again. We pass it sideways. We're not going forwards. Nobody's looking for a killer pass anymore. This is the
That's
problem.
a big thing.
This is the problem, that we slating Maddison off, we're slating this player off, we're slating that player off.
Should Maddison not have that in his locker, though? Like, I was looking at PSG last night. They're two sort of midfielders. They're getting on the ball. They're spraying it out wide over the top. It's not always a 5-yard pass or predictable pass along the ground. Sometimes, they get the ball, they pull it in over the fullback, straight onto the winger to get on in behind and all. Like, could our midfielders actually not be doing a lot more in terms of giving us, different variations going forward, so we're not as predictable to play against? Because I do think that is a large part of the problem. When we are in possession as well, we're very predictable. Everyone knows we want to play that ball along the ground. That's why we've seen something like the interception we've seen in the Bournemouth game. Kirkers was waiting for that, intercepted, went up, put a delicious ball in the box. All of a sudden they score and they're in control of the game. Our passing does need to be mixed up, and I would argue that does need to come from the midfield. Stop playing it 2 feet all the time and look to play balls in behind and that.
But Dave, I mean, we say, can Maddison step up? Look at them first.
I've seen him do it at times, just not enough.
Yeah, but look at those first 10 games on panels like this, and that. We were all sat there saying, didn't realise Maddison was this good. Didn't realise, this is the Basuma we want to see. This is the way, you had several players that could have won man of the match. Now we're even lucky to pick one player that could be man of the match. Now, Basuma in those first 10 games, Maddison in those. I remember sitting there and saying, I didn't realise Maddison could move his feet that quick. He was doing magical things. Well, all of a sudden, it's all gone out the window. Now, don't tell me that all the teams have worked out how to play against us, because if you're quality, you can carry on doing that. Now, it might be, people say, oh, look, Ange can't do this, Ange can't do that. But something has gone totally wrong within this club. Totally wrong. And it's getting worse and worse and worse. Now, we've kind of got to somehow, if Ange is going to succeed, go back to those first 10 games and work out what were we doing in those first 10 games that allowed us to look like we could actually go on and win the league maybe that year. These are them first 10 games, we looked unbeatable. And we've played teams since. We've played City, we've played Man United. They might be the worst teams that they've ever had, but we've actually looked good against those teams. We've got to find out what clicked in those games and get back to it. Or if we're battered tonight, then Ange has got to go, and we've got to get a manager in that's going to take us forward and bring the belief back, because something is absolutely fundamentally wrong in this club right now.
No, 100%. And look, that sort of brings on to the next question, lads. And I mean, anyone come in on this one on how you want to answer it. But, there's a big belief heading into these games, these games tonight. And, that Postecoglou's future sort of is decided on how we get on in the Europa League. Do we still feel like that? Do we still feel like, the Europa League is the decisive factor for Ange? Because again, I hear a lot of pundits saying, a question was thrown out there, who needs this Europa the most out of all the teams left in it? And of course, Rio Ferdinand tried to say Man United because of the history and all that bollocks. But everyone else jumped in and said, no, Tottenham Hotspur, because the minute we go out of this, everything changes at Tottenham. So they reckon that we need it a lot more. So is the pressure on Postecoglou? Does his future rely on this? Because he sort of gave an answer as well in the press conference the other day, and again, it was taken out of context by the media. He was being sarcastic where he said, look, does it even matter if I win it? I'm gone on that according to people and stuff like that. But that just makes me think that he feels like he's not, and ever since everything he answers in the press conference has always been, the long term, and it just makes me feel like that maybe, even though we feel one way, maybe the club don't see it that way. Let's go around the panel and get what people's thoughts are on that. And people at home, again, please get your answers in. And if you feel like, you want us to expand on it a bit more, feel free, to make it a super chat or whatever so that we can't miss it. But who wants to go on that one, lads?
I think the only one who truly knows about Ange's leaving. I think he's the only one that truly knows. I mean, we can all guess, we can all have our own opinions on it.
Yeah, but I think it is your opinion. We know what Ange.
My opinion is this. My opinion. Yeah, I was going to give my opinion. I was getting to it. Sorry.
Yeah, but you were pointing out the obvious. We all know it's opinion based. Let's get on with it.
Look, my opinion is, yeah, it is dependent on the Europa League. I think if he gets battered tonight, I mean, Soren just said it. If he gets battered tonight, he needs to go. And that's the sort of thing. It is dependent on these two legs. Look, it's a horrible... Football is a result business. If you're not getting the results in any type of job in your life, then you need to go. And if he's not getting the results, and tonight we lose tonight, and the second leg is we can't do anything in second leg, then he's got to go. Simple as that. If he wins tonight, as long as we're in the Europa League, he keeps his job. As soon as we go out with it, I think he needs to go. I think we'd bring Ryan Mason in for the rest of the season, and we'll start from scratch next summer. But I think enough is enough. I mean, I want Ange to do. I so badly want him to do so well, and so badly want him to prove everyone wrong because of what I saw up at Celtic. And I've always got this bit in me. I want him to prove his doubters wrong. I want him to succeed. I want him to push all this down all these doubters' throats. But football is a result business. It's not like it was 10 or 15, 20 years ago where you could get away with it. You can't anymore. And I think if we go out tonight, I think Soren is spot on. If we get battered tonight, then he has to go. And he has to go tonight.
Fair.
My argument would be...
Just quickly, there's a bit of background noise on someone's if they're just when they're not speaking to them, I'm muting themselves a little bit.
Yeah. I'm going to say it sounded like an ice cream van earlier.
I know, 99. I'm
Yeah,
gasping
I was thinking I fancy what I don't think it matters what happens this season now. I mean, if we listen to some of the people that are supposedly ITKs, then he's already gone because we're interviewing new managers. So I think I pray he wins us the cup. I honestly really want him to win the cup because I want him to be able to turn around and say, I'm your most successful manager over the last however many years, and sod you, I'm gone. And
Yeah.
I just think it's now got to the point where, look, I don't care who's in charge of my club. I'm going to support them till the day they've gone. And that's just the way I am. Whether I believe in Ange or not, it makes no difference. But I just think we have got to the point now where the fan base or a percentage of the fan base is so toxic towards him. Why the hell should he stay? What would make him want to stay at this club? And I hope he wins us the cup. And I hope he goes being a successful manager and leaves us in the summer. That's what I would like to see, that it's not a case of whether I want him to stay or go. I hope he wins the cup, and I hope he walks away from the club and says, I did what I came to do. I've won you a cup. Now F off.
Look, some people say that could be a possibility. Personally, I don't think he'll walk away if he wins. I think he will stay. At the end of the day, there is no bigger clapback than lifting that trophy over your arms at the end of the day, I think he will stay. I think it'd be shameful if he wins the Europa League and let him go.
But the thing is, he could walk away from this club in the summer, actually being a manager who's won a cup.
Fair.
More than Conte could do, more than Jose could do, more than, a lot of other managers recently have done. And he could almost walk into not any other job, but, he could get another big job because he has won a trophy with Tottenham Hotspur, which no other manager has done for a bloody long time. He would be one of our most successful managers. Doesn't matter what else you look at. He could walk into another club. Now, people say, oh, he wants to pay. He's not on that much money. So I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know. I just see his term coming to an end. Doesn't matter what. I think he's lost the belief in the club. I think he doesn't need this shit. And I just hope he goes and wins the cup for us and then sticks two fingers up at us and fucks off. Not that I want him to go, but that's, I kind of want him to do that because I think it would be horrible for him to win, to get knocked out tonight and probably go anywhere without being able to say, well, I won something.
I don't. I actually hope that the trophy can, a trophy can bring absolutely everybody together. I mean, that's what I'm hoping. Yeah.
It won't gel the fan base. It doesn't matter whether he wins he could win the cup. It will not matter to some fans. The first game we lose next season, it'll just start again.
No. Look, it'd be interesting. Look, at the end of the day, we don't know. We are only giving our opinions here. Part of me I just think, and I've sort of had this feeling all season long, the way he answers some of the questions, even I go back to the Graham Bergwall, that he wants to be the one to get the fruits out of the labor that he's put into them and stuff like that. Part of me just makes me think that he feels he will be here next season, the way he's answering questions. But look, let's wait and see. But I do think if he wins the Europa League, I do think it brings everybody together for a large part. Like Jack said, I don't think anyone will care what's going on. We'll be down the high road with flares sticking out of our arse. Do you know what I mean? Celebrating that at the end of the day. I think everyone will sort of forgive and move on. At least that's what I would hope would happen. Maybe I live in dreamland. Big up, Drew. Good to see you. I know he's working today. Says big up, lads. So are we saying that it's not possible to have a bad season anymore? Fifth last year, could be fifth again next year, but we'll never know, I guess. Big up, panel. Come on, you Spurs. Come on, you Harris Army. Come on, you Kaniki Army. And come on, you Flat Cap Army. Look, do you know what? I understand the point that you're actually trying to make there, Drew. I just think football in terms of that has changed, where the minute you do have a bad season as a manager, it does cost you your job. It's very rarely now a club sticks by you through that bad season into a following season. And look, it's an even harder case to make with the amount of games that we've lost this season as well. But I just think that's the way modern football is going. And look, I think that's probably part of our problem to a large degree, that, you know, we always create the bad second season by the shit summer transfer window.
Yep.
And when it goes tits up, we end up firing them rather than sometimes sticking through them and coming out the other side. But also, it's just the nature of football now. With the amount of money fans are paying, they expect to win.
Yeah.
They expect the demands come with it now, unfortunately. It's not like years ago where you could pay all your stuff, good shop for the week, and you could use a bit of your spare money to go to a game and still have pocket change, and all the prices are skyrocketing, which means fans are less tolerant for stuff like this. And I can understand it to a large degree. But who didn't answer? Jack and Mike, have you anything you want to say on what we're talking about there?
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, just to say, if he won it, first of all, I think, yeah, we definitely would get behind him. I think we would. Everyone would let the past be in the past. And, you know, even me, imagine just being in the street with the tour bus and the parade, lifting the European trophy, man. Like, that's for, don't even get me dreaming. That's getting me buzzing just thinking about it. But, you know, the reality is that he is under a lot of pressure. I think that was the first part of the question. Like, is he under pressure? Like, I can't believe he's still here. So he must be under pressure.
You know, even if we do go out of the Europa League, which, touch wood, hopefully we don't, and we do go on and win it, because, you know, I don't care at the end. I'm a Tottenham fan. I'd like to see us win a trophy, but regardless of what it means for Postecoglou. But, you know, do you think that do you subscribe to that notion that as soon as we're out of this, you know, he's gone?
I don't know. I'm in a territory with Daniel Levy that I haven't seen before. You know, usually he'll be gone already, regardless of what knockout stage we're in Europe. So 16 Premier League losses. 16. The worst in my personal watching lifetime, as far as I'm concerned. I've not seen any results as bad as this. So it's almost in a weird place. Like, do we stick it out? Do we just sort of ride it out, see how the first 10 games go next season before pulling the plug? Do we get, you know, a big risk if that's the case? Like, obviously, I think, you know, if he does go out in the summer, we'll make a change. If it's not like we transfer straight away, and then obviously at the summer, I think he will go. But maybe if he gets to the final and loses the final, he might stay. I don't know. So there's so many different kind of factors in play that can change the sort of course of the club's future. Obviously, I wanted to win it. Like, as a fan, I want to win silverware. You know, strange things happen with the club where the season's poor and we lift a trophy. So this might be just one of those weird years where we look back at it and it's a strange part of our history. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
hopefully, fingers crossed.
It's happened before with FA Cups, you know, where, you know, we've been poor in the league and we've gone on and win a trophy. Many of the older fans remind me, you know, it's not beyond the realms of impossibility. It has happened. Look, it's really hard to know. Like I said, my feeling is one way. I just think the way Postecoglou answers some of these things, maybe he's just very sure he's going to be here no matter what. But
yeah,
I do find it hard that he survives the pressure from the fan base if we go out of this. I find it hard to believe that to a large degree. But look, you know, it's interesting. I do see a lot of fans sort of subscribe to the notion as soon as he's out, he's gone. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But look, guys, let's move on. I want to start getting into let's talk about some of the players in the team. I want to start with the fullbacks. I mean, who do we think is going to play or who do we actually, even a better question, who do we think is going to be left out tonight between Pedro Porro Spence and Destiny Udogie, and why? We'll start with you again on this one, Mike.
It's a tough one, isn't it? I don't know. He's got to play Spence. Surely he's got to play Spence. I think he's one of our best players in the last couple of months. So I'm not too sure, to be honest with you. I mean, maybe he goes. For me, if it was me personally, I probably would play Udogie, but Spence has been better on the left. So maybe go Spence left and Porro on the right for the fullback position. At least he's got a nicer problem to have with options. Like, Udogie's not the worst option to have either. So I think we'll see, obviously, a combination of all three of them throughout this match. Probably at some point, they'll all get their chance in the game. And hopefully all three of them will step up tonight and take it.
Why do you think Udogie will be left out? What's your thinking? Like, what's your reasoning behind maybe you leaving him out even?
Probably more than anything, just match sharpness. I just hasn't had enough sort of minutes under the belt leading up into this game. So I think if it was me, yeah, Spence on the left and probably Porro on the right. If we're going to play the way I hope we play as well, which is aggressive, at the neck, really suffocating, and then Porro's not a bad option to have on the right with his attacking qualities. So yeah, that's what I believe will happen. And yeah, Udogie is not a bad player. When he's on form, he's a really good player. Definitely a good fullback for us. But I think at the moment it's probably a bit too soon for him to probably start tonight.
Do you know what with Destiny Udogie? Like, for me, I actually feel sorry to the kid for a large degree. I think, first of all, people forget how young he is and the demands that we're placing on the guy at that sort of age as well. But he came into this season with no preseason behind him, off the back of a surgery from last season and stuff like that. Threw him straight into it, didn't really give him any respite, played him until he was knackered again. And then as soon as he's back, we're thrusting him straight back in. And I do think it has hampered his performance levels to a certain degree. When he came here last season and he was fit and firing, he was the best left back in world football for a long period last season, in my opinion. But I do think this season, in terms of even defensively, his performances maybe haven't hit that level. But for me, the reason why I would leave him out tonight, guys, personally, is because I do think he gives away a lot of possession for a team that's trying to play out from the back and be possession-based. I also think when Udogie plays, I don't think you get as much out of Son as you do when you play Spence down that side. And when I try and think of the reason why, I put it down to how good Spence is in the ball and how rare he loses possession compared to someone like Destiny Udogie. I think the biggest problem Udogie's got is his first time passing. When he's looking to do a 1-2 with Sonny or Madison, when he goes to move that ball first time without taking a touch, a lot of the time the pass goes not where not to its intended target. We end up giving away possession. We leave ourselves vulnerable to a large degree as well. So that would be the distinguish I would make on dropping him tonight. And plus, because it's a home leg, we have to be the team that wants to be dominant. We have to show some, assertiveness. We want to be in the ascendancy. We want to go at them. And trying to take advantage of the home leg is the name of the game. Trying to score goals tonight is the name of the game. And I just think Pedro Porro and Spence just give you a lot more in possession than maybe what someone like Udogie does. But I would argue for the away leg, Spence and Udogie have to be your two fullbacks because they are a lot better defensively so that, we don't get targeted as much. And I just wonder, is Anne also getting to that point? You look at Porro, Mr. Chelsea game away from home. It's clear that, he doesn't fancy him defensively away from home anymore, in my opinion. But guys, anyone else want to come in on that?
I think I would say the fullbacks also depend on who he's going to put on the wing. Because to me, it's suicide having Brennan Johnson and Pedro Porro on the wings now, because it's almost like you've got two players that just don't defend. So for me, if Brennan Johnson's starting, which he probably will be, I would put Spence on the right and Udogie on the left. Okay. Because you've got a little bit more.
Do you think that's what Ange will be basing his decision on as well, to a degree?
I don't know. I mean, look, Porro hasn't been great this season. It's all right saying Udogie hasn't played well. Porro hasn't had really much to, great success. But fair. I do think if we're going to go down the attacking line, then it probably will be Spence and Porro. But for me, the better defensive back is Spence and Udogie. But I think Spence plays better when he's on the left. So it's kind of a hard way to look at it. But I do think it depends on the front line as to who plays in the back line. So that's my argument to it.
Anyone else? Dermo, Jack, anything you want to come in on that, or move on and talk about the centre-backs?
I think you've got to start with Porro and Spence. I think Porro gives you something a bit more on that right side with his crossing as well. We've seen a few times this season he's whipped in some really good balls into the box, especially that goal. I think Man City, I think he whipped one in for Madison to put it in the back of the net. So I think definitely for the home leg, you start with Spence, who I think has had a fantastic season and he is playing well. I would start with Porro and Spence all day long. I think Udogie, I think you are right, Dave, in that he hasn't had a preseason. He hasn't been on it. And I think for me, I know you said he gives away possession, but I just feel sometimes he's a bit left open when we attack down that side. We see him a little bit wide open that players target him, and we know we can get by him. I think with Porro and Spence, we're more solid as a back four. That's just my opinion.
Okay.
So that's what I would start with, and I still stick the same two in the away second leg as well. I wouldn't change it. I think that back four is more solid as a unit than you do when you got Porro and your doggy. I think when that is a back four, that's a little bit more gettable than a Porro and a Spence at fullbacks, in my opinion.
No, fair enough, fair enough. But look, we'll take a couple of comments here from the chat, and we will continue to crack on.
By the way, over 450 at least in the house, and only 100 likes that I'm seeing. So I'd imagine that at least more than a quarter of you guys are enjoying the conversations in the stream so far. So please smash it for it, everybody. You do also help us out a ton by doing so. And also, there's some people watching us on X. Feel free to follow us over to YouTube here.
I really appreciate it, guys. Nick Carey says counter-pressing is the main thing here, getting the ball back as soon as you lose it, not just letting teams run through. We back off far too much. Absolutely agree with that. Big up, Nick Carey. You're absolutely spot on. I just think when we're aggressive on the press, we get joy. We turn ball over, especially Spence. I've seen him do it a lot of times. Turns ball over when we can get aggressive on that press. We need to get back to showing the work rate and the belief in that as well. I just want to say a big up to Leighton. Evelyn, he says, I'm going for a win. No jokes. Jesus, Leighton.
Biggest happy clapper we know.
He must have got a new bed and mattress or something last night, and had a really good night's sleep. I don't know what's happened to him, but big up, Leighton. Good to see you, my man. Hopefully you're keeping well. We've got El Chal Cockerell in the house. Big up, Jose. Great to see you. Hopefully you're keeping well as well, buddy. We've also got stateside foot. You must have as much creativity in the attack as possible, and you can't leave Porro out of this team. Spence actually helped Sonny in the build-up, and those two must be playing tonight. And that's exactly the point that I'm trying to get at. I do think we get more out of Son, and Son gets a lot more ball when Spence plays there because Spence can get him the ball. I just feel like a doggy sometimes gives it away far too often, and that Chelsea game really annoyed me. A times the guy goes to pass it one time and it's gone out for a throw and straight to a Chelsea player. It was really irking me, Steve. Absolutely spot on, my man. We've got K32, Porro to start on the right, Spence on the left. Udogi's off form, but would be a great sub with his pace. And look, when it comes to Udogi, I just hope that many Spurs fans don't turn on him or even start these conversations. He needs to be sold and stuff like that. And hopefully see it for what it is. No preseason, off the back of a big surgery and then getting injured again and still being thrown straight into it. I think hopefully we can have a bit of understanding around the situation. Chunky Cheeks, great to see you. Big up to the Army. Big up, my man. Big game tonight. Quarterfinal. First time we're here since 2019. Look, I can't help but get excited. I can't help but get up for this game. Park everything aside. I can deal with that in another day or two. Just get behind the team tonight and let's see what it can do. Big up, Chunky Cheeks. Big up, Big T as well. Tyler, great to see you in the house. Hopefully you're keeping well, my man. We've also got John the Fisherman. Great name. What do you catch most? Let me know. Pike, trout, let me know. We've got AK Shakes. There's not enough likes. If you're in the chat, show Dave and Jack some love. And look, really appreciate it if you could. It's free to do. It's that big thumbs up button. Basically just helps, basically just tells YouTube that you like it, and then it puts us out to more and more people and stuff like that. So that would be a massive help. Colin Turner's also gone with Porro right. Spence left without a doubt. Big up, Colin. Good to see you. Terry Wright says Porro hasn't exactly been creating a lot of chances of late. Bring him on later in the game if you need to go. Understand what you're saying, but I'd argue, I think if you go back to the Southampton game, he put in a couple of delicious balls in that first half that Romero got on the end of that he nearly scored. He put in a lovely one with the left foot and a lovely one with the right foot as well. And maybe I'm basically guessing, I'm hoping that he brings them crosses from that game into this game tonight. But I do agree with you in general. Is he as creative this season as he was last season? I would argue probably not. Big up Terry Wright. And then DB also says, we must not invert our fullbacks again this time. Be smart, play Porro and let them attack at the right time. They have speed up front and will be waiting to break on us. Yeah, I sort of agree with that as well. We don't want to be caught out with the same ball every single time, to a degree. Stop with this inverted stuff. Just get Bentancur to show a bit of, discipline in the CDM. That way you don't need Porro to invert and you can keep him out on the right-hand side because the left-hand side doesn't invert. The left-hand side goes on the overlap because Son wants to cut on the inside, and I would like to see the same happen down that right-hand side, DB. Absolutely spot on, my man. But guys, let's go in and have a bit of a conversation around Around Van de Ven and Romero, how do we think they're going to get on today as well? How much of a boost is it to have Romero back in the lineup again today? And how well do we think Romero has played on his return the last couple of games? Against Chelsea and Southampton, I would argue I think he's been absolutely brilliant in both games. I think he's shown us exactly what we've missed. And is there anything that you think Romero brings that we have been missing in recent weeks? Anyone? We'll start with Jack. Jack's been quiet. We'll start with Jack.
I think Romero's played actually quite well in the last 2 games. I thought he was the best of the defenders against Chelsea, personally. I don't think he was responsible for the goal that we conceded. I think Mickey Van de Ven and Jet Spence were more responsible for it. And then also passing out from the back. I think Romero has continued to show that he's by far our best player on the ball, playing out from the back line under pressure. He picks passes, between the lines of the midfield that Mickey Van de Ven, in my opinion, doesn't. I think Mickey is good on the ball, but he doesn't really play sometimes those line-splitting passes that Romero does that just gets a move going a lot quicker or a lot easier. He can really fire it into guys, and then they have plenty of time to get turned and actually running at the opposition defense. So I think Romero's, in my opinion, played quite well in recent games. It's only against Chelsea and a Southampton, but if we can get the best of Romero tonight, especially if we are going to try to break down a team, if they are going to play a bit of a low block, or if they are going to try to stifle us in the midfield, you need to have that guy that, as a center back, is confident enough to pick out passes that maybe others would not really try to do. You can really you can pigeonhole yourself, or you can sort of hurt yourself if you have just center backs that are just only going to pass it sideways the entire time. It just makes that low block defensive shape so much easier to execute, except if you do have a center back that is willing to try things, is willing to pick out players, you can really force that defense to reconcile and have to defend, some real moments. And I think Romero will do that for us tonight. And then Mickey Van de Ven, he's a cheat code at the end of the day. When you try to play the ball in behind, he'll catch up to you and he'll usually shove you off the ball, and he'll also just give you that sense of security as maybe a fullback or midfielder that you do have someone back there that is just, capable of beating anybody really in the race on any counterattack. So having them both back at the same time is a big lift. And I don't know about you, Dave. I think Romero's actually played quite well in recent games. I think he's been the best of the back four in the last 2 games. Not saying much. He needs to play well tonight, for him to deserve real praise. But I think Romero has been a blessing, since coming back, especially in possession.
And I would argue, hopefully, as maybe reminded fans of how good he actually is. Because I do think, when people were talking about William being injured, I do think they maybe forgot how good he actually is. But I agree with you in terms of in possession. But another one I noticed, how good was it just to see him get his fat head on the end of balls up in the opposition box? How much have we missed that for large parts of this season? Get on the end of our own corners, our own free kicks in there. Romero was on the end of 3 or 4 of them inside the first half. We really missed that from him. Van de Ven is another one that can usually get on the end of them. So, that's another thing that we've missed. First of all, as well, big up, Matty. Great to see you, Mr. Byam. Hopefully you're keeping well. This guy, some journey he makes, it's either the Isle of Wight or the Isle of Man, gets the ferry then across, and then heads on to the game then as well. So big up, Matt. Hopefully you enjoy yourself. A great day out with your son. I'll be over there for the Palace game. If you're around, it'd be great to see you, man. Big up, Matt. But does anyone else want to come in on Romero and Van de Ven before we move on maybe into the midfield? Nope. Okay, taking everyone's silence as we're done on the back line, sir.
Yeah, I think they're both very pivotal tonight. Romero's been immense, but I think Van de Ven's speed is going to be critical tonight because Frankfurt do a lot of quick breaks and they'll attack us on the break, and this is where Van de Ven comes into it. I mean, I've said for a while, I don't think Van de Ven is an absolute fantastic defender when he's having to defend in his own box on a very low line. His strength is at running back and making the tackle and barging players off, and I see that being very, very important tonight. Romero needs to keep a cool head, but I think them two could be very pivotal, and whoever plays that kind of holding role, they're going to be the 3 most important players on the pitch tonight.
I think, just very quickly, I think we've missed Romero's aggression. I think we have missed that as a defensive unit. We've missed his aggression. We've missed his sort of leadership back there with Van de Ven to bring that calmness to the defense. Because we know if we do get short, we know we've got Van de Ven's pace to get us out of it. And especially when we're defending corners or free kicks, you always see Romero talking, pointing, and we've missed that leadership back there. I think having them back, it gives Vicario a bit of confidence as well, what he's got in front of him. Where if you got a Radu or an Archie Gray, as good as Archie Gray has performed in that position, I think Vicario wasn't that confident. He was always a bit on edge. But when you got a Romero and Van der Ven, I think he's confident. He knows what he's in front of him. He says, right, lads, I can concentrate on my game. I'm leaving it to you. And he knows that Romero, with his aggression, with his leadership skills as well, and being captain as well when he has been, you look at the penalty, I'm making the decision here, and it's done. Everyone respects him, and I think that's important. And I think that's why I think we're going to do well tonight, because we've got that balance back in the back four.
I think the bigger issue here is, like Dermot just said, it's not Van der Ven or Romero, it's Vicario. Vicario's kicking and ball control. That is the biggest issue, I think, tonight. If he keeps making the mistakes that he's been making, it could be a disaster tonight.
He's also kept us in the game, so at the same time.
I know, yeah. Look, I'm not having a go at
the only reason we're still in the Europa League is because of Vicario against AZ.
You know, I mean, just over the last sort of 3, 4, 5 games, he's put us in some precarious positions.
I'd agree. Yeah.
With his, I don't know whether he's just lost all mental capacity to see where he's going to pass, but there have been some absolute dire decisions coming out from the back. Now, it does help with Romero and Van der Ven being there, but
no, against Chelsea, he was shaky.
And at
the start of the season, in 2 pre-season games, he got caught with the ball at his feet. Didn't he? That led to goals.
Yeah.
Very good point.
I just think, it's not just his shot stopping that needs to be on form tonight. It's that kicking, that foot control, because that's got to put pressure on the rest of the team as well.
100%, especially with Ekitike, closing them down. That guy's absolutely rapid. You are absolutely spot on there. But guys, before we go in and talk about maybe what we want to see in the midfield tonight, we're speaking about partnerships and the very best in the business. Well, that brings me on to the perfect time of the evening. And the next best partnership outside Romero, Van der Ven, and Jan Vertonghen and Toby Alderweireld is the Irish Hotspur and NordVPN, guys. And just like Romero and some of them defenders that we speak about, they're the very best in the business as well. Basically, what a VPN does, it allows you to change your location and go and watch live events or sporting events or whatever it may be, in different locations, in different countries if you're traveling. Or sometimes you get a stream, it's not available in this area. We've all got that dreaded words on the screen. Simply turn on your VPN, and then that's a way around it. And all of a sudden, hey, presto, the great colors are on your screen, and watch away. Not only that, it's the premium security features that they bring as well. When you're on public Wi-Fi, or on open Wi-Fi in general, it is easy for people to get your data and stuff like that. Well, they've got all these security protections in place to protect your data and all that on public Wi-Fi's as well. And it's all premium cybersecurity just for the price of a cup of coffee a month. But not only that, it's great for the whole family. You can put it onto up to 10 devices. So if you are traveling, or you're traveling in the car and the kids are annoying you in the back with a lot of noise, I've been there as one of them myself. I used to wreck my mum and dad's head in the back of the car. Simply turn on the NordVPN, watch Peppa Pig, and quieten down a little bit. Absolutely brilliant for that, guys. And not only that, shopping, if you want to book hotels, flights, all that sort of stuff. Little trick, but if you change your location, sometimes you actually get it at cheaper prices. So you can also surf the web and do your shopping with NordVPN as well. And if you put in your bank details, again, all secure. And I think everyone would agree, for the price of a cup of coffee a month, for all of that, just to feel safe, for all that security, I think it's an absolute no-brainer. So if that sounds good to you, make sure you get across to NordVPN. That's nordvpn.com. Put in the code FLATCAP and try the 2-year plan, 30-day money-back guarantee if you're not happy. But I also say to you, there's other plans as well, so check them out. And if you just want to try it on a smaller basis, there's plans there to suit your needs. So get over there and check it out. And lastly, if people go, Dave, game ain't done in the UK and Ireland, how are you watching the game? Well, NordVPN gives me the solutions, so I'm grateful for them. I'm sure you will be too. Get over and check it out. Jack, have I missed anything?
No, well done, Dave. I think I'll be using it when I head over to London because I get longer highlight packages whenever I'm in the USA, and I don't personally like the BBC highlight packages. They're like 2 minutes long, whereas the ones in the USA are like 20 minutes long, and that means I get a better encompass of the game or a better review of the game. So I'll be using it in about 3 weeks' time.
No, 100%. So make sure you get on that, guys. That's NordVPN.com, code FLATCAP. So make sure you get over there and try that out. Big up Tony Southfield as well. Good to see you, my man. Hopefully you're keeping well. Android 88, Cyprus Spurs in a hype. Great to see you as well. Make sure, Ashley, good to see you. Regan jumping in as well. Great to see you. Guys, let's go in and talk about the midfield. I think, look, we're all in agreement that Rodrigo Bentancur will slot in there in that number 6 role. Like, all we want to see from them today is just provide that bit of steel, that bit of experience. You don't need to go vacating, roaming, sit in there. Anything that comes down the right, get out there, snuff it out. Same to the left. And then in possession, don't take risks. Just punt it onto the 2 ahead. But that brings in the question. Look, me, I think, and I think most people probably agree, it will be Bergvall and Maddison. Can anyone make the case for Papa Matsar to start tonight?
Yes, I think I do. I think he gives you more of a goal threat. I think I would start with Bentancur and Papa Sarr tonight. As much as I love Bergvall, as much as I think he's doing a fantastic job as a young midfielder, he's aggression and everything, love it. But I think Papa Sarr offers you that bit more. You see him from midfield, if Bentancur sitting there, and you just see Sarr gliding on that pitch. He glides and he runs forward, and you look at the goal he scored against Chelsea. He offers you that. Bergvall doesn't offer you that. Bergvall offers you more of a defensive sort of set-type midfielder. Busies himself around the midfield, gets the tackles in, tries to recycle the ball, gives it to Maddison. There you go, get on with it. And I think with Papa Sarr, he offers you something else. He offers you that bit of an attacking threat, which tonight I think is going to be vital. And for me, I think Sarr, we play better with Sarr in the midfield, I think, as well. I like Sarr. I really rate Papa Sarr. I really do. And I hope he does get picked tonight. And I hope he puts in the performance because, again, you go back to that goal he scored against Chelsea. That was an absolute blaster of a goal. I think the goal should have been given. I think it was wrong to be taken away. I didn't see anything wrong with it. I think it was harshly given away, but that's just my opinion. But yeah, I'll start with Bentancur and Sarr.
No, look, and you know what? I understand it, and like the way I've sort of distinguished it, is that Papa Matsar does offer you a better threat in the final third. I think it's hard to disagree with you. Even look at Bergvall, the last 2 games, he cut in against Southampton, dribbled a shot into the goalkeeper's arms. Same position against Chelsea, done the exact same thing. I do think that's an area of the game where Bergvall really needs to bring his game to the next level. And I think that he will develop that. You got to remember, he's come from the Swedish second division. He's only 18 years of age, this kid. That will come the older he gets, in my opinion. And I think it's clear we've got one hell of a player on our hands. But I think deeper is where Bergvall maybe is better than Papa Matsar. And what I mean by that is Bergvall will take the ball off Bentancur. He'll break that line. He'll dribble with it. He'll get you going forward. We've seen that time and time again when he plays on the right side of that midfield tree. He sort of runs with that ball. He's a bit different to Maddison. Maddison is more of a passer. Whereas I think when Sarr's there, and a lot of the problems people have maybe had with Sarr this season is that maybe when he does receive that ball, he loses it a bit more than Bergvall. And I take that into account, but it does seem like that Bergvall, Bentancur and Maddison does seem to be Postecoglou's favourite front 3. But I ask you guys, how much of a game do we need from someone like James Maddison tonight? Because, look, whether the guy likes it or not, the burden of the creativity is on his shoulders tonight. He has to step up. He has to produce. He has to demand that ball. He has his way to the passing has to be absolutely spot on. We can't afford for him to play it safe tonight. We need him to take the risk in possession. Do we think James Maddison can stand up and deliver that? Because it's been one of my big bugbearers at times this season. I do think he's a great player. I do think he's a player that can stand up, grab that ball, and almost grab the game by the scruff of the neck, dictate what we're doing in the final third. I just think he shies away from it far too often, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Big Mike, we'll let you in on it, and then we'll let Jack and Soren in on it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. If we're going to have any joy at all over the 2 legs. Maddison needs to step up.
100%.
You know, we need him to be picking out the key passes, you know, doing this lovely little footwork, dribbling, taking a couple of people. He needs to be free, enjoying. You know, he likes to enjoy his football. He's a bit of a banter lad. So hopefully he's just going to be free tonight, enjoying his football, doing his thing, you know, winding up the crowd, you know, getting the crowd going on our side and that. So, yeah, we need him to turn up. I think he will turn up. I got a good feeling that he will turn up. I got some faith in that tonight.
Let me ask you, Big Mike, because I think, in general, from what I've seen a lot of this season when Maddison hasn't really played well, a lot of people sort of reference that maybe the tactics are stifling Maddison. Do you go along that lines, or do you just think, you know, it's on Maddison?
I don't know. I would say yes and no, maybe it's the answer to that. Like, obviously we saw, you know, we've seen the tactics help Maddison flourish, gives him the freedom to do what he wants to do, the creative freedom to basically take responsibility for that part of the game. But then maybe in recent times, like we said, as Ange lost faith in his own kind of belief in the system, as he tinkered too much on a negative level. So it's hard to say fully what's happened. You know, I think the injury didn't help Maddison. I can't remember how long he was out for, but that sort of long injury in the middle of Ange's tenure didn't help.
Yeah.
And has, you know, obviously murmurs of him and Ange. Did they have a fallout? Did they have a bust up? You know, all these kind of different things, you know, are they true? If they are, does it have an impact? So some of it's going to be on Ange, some of it's going to be in the system, some of it's on Maddison himself as well. But I want to see the Maddison that I know can produce, you know, 5 to 10 key chances per game, and that leads to goals. Simple as that. So let's hope we get that Maddison today.
No, 100%. Absolutely agree with that. Look, we really need him to step up today. And look, do you know what? He's capable of it. That's the thing. I wonder, has he been inspired by Declan Rice's free kicks the other night? You know, Jack did point out there, you know, the other night that, you know, that is something that James Maddison used to do regularly at one point, put free kicks into the top bins, you know, and we haven't really seen that to a degree at Tottenham Hotspur. And I just wonder, because, you know, sometimes you can see that happen. You know, a player gets inspiring, been working on it for a couple of days, all of a sudden you see it replicated. I mean, anyone else want to, Jack, Soren, do you want to come on the midfield?
I think against a low block, stubborn defense, you do need a Maverick style midfielder to just sort of pick up the ball and try things and just sort of have the confidence to play passes that maybe others don't see or maybe too hesitant to make. Also, Maddison as well, like you mentioned, Dave, he's capable of a top, you know, banger of a goal. Like he can take it past his man, create a bit of an angle, you know, try to, you know, fire a good shot at the keeper, which will be necessary in a game like this because you need to create chaos. You need to sort of create moments where that back line and the goalkeeper are forced to defend or save something, you know, and then you can lead them into a mistake or force them into a mistake, or perhaps you get lucky with the deflection or you get lucky with the bounce of the ball. You do need someone like Maddison to sort of be that Maverick style midfielder to just try things and just continue to just be, you know, a spark of energy and a spark of creativity for us. You know, it's really on him. And that's the reason you're wearing the number 10 shirt. That's the reason that you're the guy with the haircut, the tattoos, you know, the whole thing. Like, it comes with the territory. And it's the reason why guys, you know, like playing, you know, with someone like a Maddison, because they know that he will find them. They know that he will see runs. They know that he can play passes that others just can't play really to an extent. And I will say this, he has more of an X factor to his game than maybe other people do. You know, he can pull off magic. He is capable of it. It's just we need to see it in these 2 legs. We need to see that midfielder, you know, show a bit of magic, you know, in a game like this. The pressure's on.
Just quickly, I do have a follow-up question that I want to come back to you with Jack Sachs to do with Reptile's comment. I think what Reptile has said there is exactly maybe the phrase I've been waiting for to get across what I've been trying to say. But just quickly, some leaked team news. I don't know how true this is. We will wait for the official one to come out. But apparently, the carrying goals, Porro right back, Romero Van de Ven at centre-back, Adogi at left-back, no Jed Spence. Borgval in the midfield with Bentancur and Maddison. Son off the left, Johnson off the right, and Solanke through the middle. Like I said, I will wait for the official one to drop. But apparently, no
It's just dropped, Dave. It's just dropped.
I'm on Twitter. I've Tottenham put out their official lineup on their page.
Yeah, they have. I'm looking at it now.
Okay, 1 second.
Here it is.
Perfect. Thank you. But just quickly before we get into that and the big controversial one of no Jed Spence, I'll read out the lineup now in a second again. But Jack, Reptile says, I don't feel we open up the pitch enough when we're in possession. And I actually agree with this largely. You know, a lot of it's keeping it tight, 5-10 yard passing. And I guess that's what I've been trying to say when I want Maddison to pick up that ball, spread it out, 15, 20 yards out to the right-hand side, same to the left-hand side.
I think part of that's we just don't move it quick enough for me. Like there's so many times when we're playing useless triangles, where no one's even marking us and we're just playing 5-6 yard passes to each other that doesn't really go anywhere or do anything to really make the defense work. And then I'd also say that sometimes there aren't really any real runs off of the ball, because when you make a run beyond the back line or when you make a run in behind, you do force, again, the defenders to have to defend something. You do stretch them, that bit more. And if you try to play that pass, again, you are forcing them to defend something. You are forcing them to have to clear something away. And then from there, again, there will be more gaps. There will be more space, for players to take up. So for me, it's just far too static in possession when we're just playing amongst each other, passing it amongst each other. But then I'd say, guys like Sonny, not making enough runs in behind to stretch the defense, keep them honest. Same thing could be said of Brennan Johnson as well. Like he sort of just hugs the touchline, just stands there the whole time, and then eventually waits, till it gets shifted over to the other side, and then he'll make a run into the box, to tap one away. But he's not really doing that as much. I feel like when we are, maybe moving it over to the right side, he kind of, again, just sort of stands there, doesn't really try to make a run in behind or anything. So what I think it's twofold for me. It's just maybe too static in possession, too much sideways passing, too many useless triangles. And then also just, the forwards, I think, need to make more kind of convincing runs that do force that back line to have to adjust and have to change shape.
No, 100%. I absolutely agree with that. And I think it's just an element that we can bring to our game to make us a lot less predictable. I think it would be a good option to bring to the game for sure. But look, let's go through the lineups here. We have Vicario in goals, Pedro Porro at right back, Romero Van de Ven at centre back, Edogi coming out left back, Jed Spence dropping back to the bench, Bergvall, Bentancur, Maddison through the midfield, Johnson off the right, Son off the left, Solanke through the middle. On the bench, we have Brandon Austin, Alfie Whiteman, Jed Spence, Ben Davies, Archie Gray, Yves Bissouma, Papa Matassar, Mikey Moore. Wilson Odegaard makes the bench. Interesting, especially if he comes off. If he doesn't come off the bench, I would argue maybe there is truth to the story of him having a hamstring injury and waiting to send him for a scan, but it's interesting. And that's completed by Matisse Tal and big slick Richarlison on the bench tonight. I wonder, will we see minutes from him? But look, we'll start with Big Mike and work our way up the panel. Big Mike, no Jed Spence. It's a huge call. I mean, why do you think that decision has been made? What's your thoughts behind it?
I gotta be honest, I'm a little bit surprised. Like I thought Spence would have been one of the first names on the team sheet at the moment, but I did say early on, I think all three will play a part in tonight's match. So I do expect to see Spence coming at some point in the game. To be honest with you, the lineup's quite strong,
Do you think Spence could come off the bench as a winger later on in the game? I wonder, is that maybe the thinking behind it?
He did it earlier, didn't he? Didn't he do that earlier on in one game? He moved Spence a little bit further up, did he? Or moved someone? I can't remember if he did that early on. I think I did see something like that. But yeah, it's not impossible. Look, I think we've got some options if Odegaard is available to come off the bench, Richarlison and stuff on the wings. I think we look quite healthy, actually, on the bench. It probably is the strongest we've been, like full squad wise in a little while. But this team is good enough to win today. I just want to say that quickly. It is strong enough to actually win convincingly. I'm not going to be disrespectful to Frankfurt. I know they're a good side, but if we want it and we get behind them today, we should be winning. So I'm not unhappy with the lineup, to be fair.
Yeah, no, look, a lot of people seem to be okay with it, even though Jed Spence is left out, which, well, actually, half the people are and half aren't. Actually, let's not overdo it, Dave. Big Mike, let's get your score prediction, and then we will let you go because I know you do have to be somewhere this evening. So
I do.
A massive thank you for your time. I really appreciate it, buddy.
No, thank you. No, anytime. I appreciate it as well. Thanks for letting me come on. So, score-wise, you know what? Yeah, today I just think we're going to win. I really do. I'm going to go 3-1. I do think we're going to concede, unfortunately, but I think we will have a lot of chances today, and I think we'll take a few of them. So yeah, I'm going to go 3-1. I'm going to go, I'm going to go Sonardo, Son Pelion, Son Heung Messi, the captain, to score today. Yeah, he's going to score today. I think he's going to step up, man. We need it for the fans. So, yeah, we deserve it. We waited a long time. I still believe we can win this trophy, even if we have had an abysmal Premier League form. So let's just get behind it and let's get on. Let's go, lads. Come on, you Spurs.
No, come on, you Spurs. Big up, Big Mike.
Come on.
Appreciate your time.
Great job, Big Mike.
You're absolutely spot on. We definitely have the team to be able to go out there and win today. And let's hopefully we can get it 3-1. I'll be happy with that heading to Frankfurt, to be
100%.
quite honest with you. But Big Mike, we'll let you go, my man. Again, thank you for giving up your time. Really appreciate you.
Legend. Thank you, Big Mike.
Thanks, everyone. Take care, man. Remember, everyone, smash the like button and get behind the lads, yeah? Come on, let's go.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Absolute legend. Steve Webb, good to see you as well. He's also gone 3-1 Spurs. RST says, by sheer dumb luck, your forward line is correct. Big up, Dave. I got a lot of the lineups correct this season, to be quite fair to you. I think maybe I am in Postecoglou's brain. I think the only one that threw me out through the loop today was Spence. Apart from that, I got the rest absolutely spot on. But I'd argue, I don't think it is dumb luck, RST. Every predicted lineup, I do give my reasons behind why I think they're going to play. So I'd argue maybe the logic is correct rather than being luck. But Soren, on to you, my man. I mean, look, let's get your thoughts on the lineup in general. No Jed Spence, it's a big call. Wilson Odegaard on the bench, despite the rumours coming out about the hamstring injury. I mean, do you agree with Mike that this is a team good enough to go and collect a big win tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I think the funniest part is Odegaard on the bench. How much do they in the nose know, as usual? Suddenly, the bear's out, and there he is. I mean, surely if he's got a hamstring, he's not going to be on the bench. So I just find it hilarious.
Yeah, Paul O'Keefe as well made big news of it.
Wanting to be the first ones to break the news that he's not playing, and there he is on the team sheet.
If he doesn't play tonight, though, do you think it is a case that there's some truth to it?
Well, surely, if there's any case that he's got a hamstring problem, he wouldn't be on the bench. I mean, look, I know Ange's got his critics, and some people would say he's stupid enough and he doesn't know what he's doing, and he would put him on the bench anyway. But I honestly don't see the point in putting a player with a hamstring problem on the bench, because we might need him. And if he's going to come on and play, surely if there's any way that he's got an injury like that, he's not on the bench. What's the point? But moving on, look, Spence not playing, surprising, but that team's good enough to go and win tonight. If we don't, there's no excuses. Look,
do you think they will be up for the fight?
I tell you what, if they're not, then we've got no hope, have we? If any team is in a quarter-final of a European Cup at home and they're not up for it, then
you got problems.
What's the point? What's the point in even playing football? I see that team going on and winning. I'm going to go with the 3-1. I think we will concede. I was going to say 4-1, but I think that's probably stretching it a little bit. I think 3-1, hopefully at home, go on, puts us in a very good position for the away leg. And yeah, I think, why not? Why not? Dreams can come true.
Well, do you know what? I was listening to that, what was it, Gabrielle, that song Dreams, if anyone knows who I'm on about. I was listening to that.
Just going through my head now. Yeah.
Dreams can come true. Yeah, and do you know what? I have a version for it. If we get to Bilbao, look at me, Tottenham, I'm in Bilbao with you. Absolutely love it. Great song. Absolutely spot on. Gabrielle, Dreams. Great song.
In my head, it's Dreams can come true, Tottenham, we love you. So
absolutely love it.
Yeah, look, that team's good enough. Whether Spence is there just in case to come on, I think to me, Spence is a very good defender and he's good at going forward. But whether he's just picked Romero and Udogie for that going forward, because Spence is certainly a better defender than both of them. So
I think he's better than going forward than both of them as well. I'd argue to a large
degree. Maybe he is, but whether he's just a little bit more defensive than both of them, I don't know. But there's obviously a reason. Whether he's, I mean, he might be tired. He's played.
Maybe they got it wrong. Maybe it's Spence feeling his hamstring. Maybe they got it wrong.
That's, when it
That's
came out
scary.
and Spence wasn't playing and Odebear was in there, I was kind of thinking, have they got the wrong player? Have they cocked it up as normal? But look, that team is good enough to go on and win 3-1 tonight. Come on, you Spurs.
Oh, absolutely love it. No, I think many people are saying the same. They said it's a good enough team to go and win it, but the question, do the players have the fight in them? And look, like I've said before, this isn't Postecoglou to mold them. This game should be self-motivating for these players. Some would argue they took their foot off the gas the other day in preparation for this game, so they better come out firing out the blocks and let's go and try and get a few early goals. Dermo, on to you, my man. I mean, look, what's your thoughts on the lineup? Are you shocked by the Jed Spence exclusion? And also, what's your score prediction, buddy? And we'll get your chat in, or your channel in the chat, man.
I'm disappointed Spence isn't starting, but look, that's the 11 we're going to get behind. It's the 11 I'm going to get behind. He is on the bench. I agree with you. I think he might come on as a winger. I don't know if you said that, Dave, but I got a sneaky feeling. I think you're right in that.
That's on the basis it's true that Odebear is feeling his hamstring, and if he doesn't come off the bench, I just wonder, do you see Spence maybe come off the bench and play a wing? It's just a theory.
I saw
if it is. That's unbelievable.
It is. And why would you pick somebody that's injured and put them on the bench? I just don't get it. I think
we've done it with Van de Ven before. Let's not forget.
Yeah, that's true. But if you have any doubt, wouldn't you not, especially with a suspected hamstring, would you just not leave him out just as a precaution? I just find it very odd that they say, oh, he's out, and then suddenly he's...
Maybe we're trying to shithouse Frankfurt either.
Maybe too, but can I just say I didn't say anything. So I'm just saying it wasn't my fault. I never said a damn thing. So I didn't say anything. But no, look, that's a team that can go and win it. And I'm going for a 4-0 win. I'm going for it 4-0 all the way. We're going to win 4-0. Just a little thing. The last time we played them, we beat them 3-2 at home and we drew 0-0 away in the Champions League. I would take that. Again, no problem. But yeah, 4-0. It's my father's 22nd anniversary of his passing, and he was a big Spurs fan. He was the reason he got me into Tottenham, took me to my first Tottenham game. So I want to win tonight for him from Spurs. And that's why I'm going 4-0. And if you like what I have to say, come over to THFC till I die. It's me. Steve's joined the channel, and there's a few people. James as well, Colum's cousin as well has joined. So we've got some new people. And if you like views and if you want opinions and delusional talk and just somebody that's completely off their tree, come and join subscribe to my channel. And I think my camera's about to give up before I hit it with a hammer. I am. There you go. That'll stop everyone getting a funny eyesight.
You wouldn't want anyone to be epileptic looking at that.
No, you wouldn't. No, but if you like to come over, like to come over, just come over and come on, win for my dad tonight because he was a big Spurs fan as well. So come on, Tottenham, don't let me down.
Big up, Tron.
100%. Big up, Tron. Guys, please get over. Smash the subscribe button to Tron's channel. Show him the love that he deserves over there. But look, it is a massive night for Tottenham Hotspur. At the end of the day, I know, the drama around the players and the manager. Let's put it aside. Let's get behind the boys for 90 minutes tonight. And let's try and give ourselves something heading out to Germany next week. And let's defy all the odds. At the end of the day, with Tottenham, I love nights like these. Last season, when we had 2 weeks at a time, no games at times, we were killing to have Europe back. And no matter how this season has gone, Europe has been the bright spot for many fans this season. A lot of the youngsters at times this season have stepped up in this European competition and produced for Tottenham. So this has been, a temporary relief, compared to the Premier League and that this season. And hopefully we can keep this going, because I'll be honest, I don't want our season to end tonight. I want to prolong this. I want to get into a semi-final. I want to get to the final. I want to get to Bilbao. So, look, I think good enough team to win it. Question the Jed Spence decision. But at the end of the day, the players have to show fight. They have to go for it tonight, and we have to take something to Germany. Guys, go and get your dinner. Go and get a beer, and we'll see you back here in half an hour's time for the watch along for the big quarterfinal tonight. Remember, the first time we've been here since 2019. So let's fucking go. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Let's
Less
have
than
it.
30 minutes away from drama, madness, what we all live for. It's, European quarterfinal stuff. It's what we dream of. Let's go into it. Come on, boys. Come on, you Spurs.
Oh, I'm pumped. And by the way, I want to say a massive thank you to Dermatron giving up his time this afternoon. Soren as well. Boys have a lot going on in their lives. They've been kind to give up the time. Big Mike as well. I've got a family to look after and also gave up his time today. So really appreciate all of them. I want to say a massive thank you to people who have gone the extra mile to support the channel. Artist T, The Big D, K32, Dermatron, and Woodsy. Really appreciate all you guys. At the end of the day, like Tesco, every little helps, and hopefully we could just become bigger and better off the back of it. So really appreciate all you guys. And not last but least, all of you fucking magnificent Spurs fans at home. No matter how tough it's been, there's still been nearly 700 people showing up today for today's game. The support is there. And to Tottenham players, it's over to you. See you back here in half an hour. Come on.
Come on, you Spurs.